Welcome to Lightning. With Lightning only a week away, I'm overdue getting this trackside classroom up on YouTube for everyone. So with that apology for this getting late, let's get this show on the road. Today we're going to talk about vision and situational awareness for advanced drivers, and we're going to try to go way beyond just the basics to give you some very practical tips and suggestions for how you can improve what you quote see on track. So as always, there's the disclaimer that we do our best to put good content here, but you use it at your own risk. So vision is a lot more than what we see with our eyes, and that's what it's part of what we're going to talk about today. But even more so, we're going to talk about how you can actually, quote, see more, and how, in fact, you have to see more as you go faster. Otherwise, you can't go faster, and certainly you won't be safe. And of course, some easy tips and ways to improve. So it's obvious that safety, whether that means traffic, flag station, situational awareness, track surface, we got to be able to see that stuff, but then process it. Part of the processing is depth perception. How do we know how fast that car is closing on us in the mirror? Well, that's depth perception. And we need that to be honed very carefully on track if we're going to be safe. But the point I want to make here is that our vision, what our eyes tell us or show us, is really not worth much until we process it. Our brain has to process, which takes time, and then we have to use our hands, feet, or both, and that takes more time. So we're going to talk some about what that means. Now, we can clearly see more on track than most people do. You've seen these tips already. These are the kinds of things that are in the class for student drivers. Look ahead, look where we want to go, use lots of reference points, use your peripheral vision. But can we do better? Of course. Now you may have seen this part before, but I'm going to emphasize it again. Because it's really central to the improvement of how we see things and react to them on track. First and most important is focus. That's, the high definition vision, where we see in great detail, with the word is focus, that's correct. But this is a very small area. But this is the area we drive to. It's the area we go to. That's our focus. Peripheral vision is what we see all around us, to our sides and around that peripheral vision. A glance is using the focus, but now in a different way. It's just a quick glance, half a second or less, but we are using it to make sure there isn't something there, or more or better, to make sure that the mental picture we have is the same as always, that there's not something different. Think about a flag station. It should look, empty, as in no flag. But if all of a sudden there's a flag, the glance is going to show us that. And then mental is that picture in our mind's eye of what that flag station looks like, what the corner is supposed to look like, and so on. Now, to put a little more color, if you will, or detail around how the eyes and brain work, this diagram is particularly useful because it shows us that our focus, which is in the middle here, that red circle, that is very small. But notice it's way up track. It's where the driver is driving to. Now, we can see text in a slightly bigger area around that. The green arrow, the green circle shows us the green, but that isn't a very big area. So if you drop your eyes off the, off the windscreen to look at a lap time, you're distracting from what you can see because you can't see text out of your peripheral vision. Color we can see in a bigger area, the purple circle here. Motion we can see, all the way around us. Our peripheral vision is really designed to pick up motion. Now, if you put all this together, this is the single best slide showing how to look at driving through a corner. It doesn't capture flag stations, which I'll say more about in a minute, but this slide rather is very important. So the driver in this case is in the braking zone. He's hard on the brakes, and his focus, the purple here, is on the apex, as it should be, because he's going to pick up the turn-in point out of his peripheral vision. But notice he's also glanced at an area as much as he can see at track out in the track out portion of the track to make sure there isn't something wrong there. So he's confident that there's nothing he has to worry about in this area ahead. But his focus is on the apex. And at the same time, he has a mental picture, this orange line, of where the car should go, what it looks like when it's done correctly. So this use of focus, glance, peripheral vision, central to improving how we see and drive on the track. But given all that, why would a driver miss a flag? Well, it's because seeing has a lot more to do than just pick up the line. We have to see the track surface. We have to see other cars. We have to see flags. We have to see where it's safe to run off and a whole bunch more. I said earlier, the eyes are only part of this equation. The brain plays a big part. Well, this is, with all these other factors, this is where we need processing time. If we're just applying 100% of our effort to seeing everything like the line on the previous page, we're not going to have the bandwidth to focus on picking up a flag or picking up some oil on the track or whatever it might be. So, and I emphasize this here because if you try to go fast too soon, and a lot of us are going to our first event of the year, if we just go out and try to go fast, our bandwidth isn't going to be there to pick up all of these other factors. So we got to drive at the pace that our brain can process what it sees around. Now, flags, again, why would they get missed? Okay. The flag is there. There isn't an excuse, but I would be willing to bet that many of you watching this, if not the majority, have missed a flag at least once. And if that ever does happen to you, please ask yourself why, and peel that onion back until you understand, why did I miss that flag? Did I simply not glance at the flag station? That's not uncommon. Maybe I glanced at it, but I didn't really look at it. Our brains can play tricks on us if we're used to seeing a particular mental picture and we don't actually glance. In other words, we don't actually focus the brain for a split second to see if that mental picture is the same or different. The flag can be there. We could have pointed our eyes at it and not seen it. There's a fancy term for that called inattentional blindness. So that's one possibility. But regardless, if you missed a flag, you did not point your brain along with your eyes at the flag station. It's as simple as that. And using your glance in a deliberate way is really, really important. Here's another example, mirrors. we need to be aware of cars behind. We should never be surprised by a car in the mirror. But again, I'd be willing to bet that most of you have been surprised at one point or another by a car in the mirror. I know it's happened to me. It's easy to happen. Well, to prevent that from happening, we have to scan those mirrors with a glance again, just like we scan the flag stations. And we have to do that on straightaways, in the middle of a straightaway, not just the beginning, and at the end of a straightaway entering a braking zone. That'll tell us, have cars gained on me or are they further back? And of course, exiting a corner, that's the basics. We know how close the next car is and when it's time to give a pass signal. But using the eyes and the brain again to scan those mirrors every few seconds is really, really important. Now, can vision and situational awareness be improved? The answer is yes. And I'm talking about, for all of us, not just beginners. And so I'm going to give you 3 ways to improve vision. The first one involves are things that you can practice on the street. And this is the looking ahead part, but also getting better at being aware of when you're focusing on something, when you're glancing at something, and how to use the peripheral vision. And of course, making sure the mirrors are done properly. Second step is visualization. Ross Bentley calls it mental imagery, where we improve our mental picture of the track. And third is deliberate practice, focused on vision and sensory input sessions, and I'll say more about that. So on the street, how far ahead do we look? Hopefully, we're looking, with our focus area way up the road here. Here's one way to think about it. If you're driving in a metropolitan area in a city, we want to be looking at least a block ahead. Again, with our focus, our focus needs to be in that direction. We're glancing that far ahead. Our focus may be closer, especially if there's pedestrians or whatever. But we want to be, with our glances, looking basically as far ahead as we can, but at least a block in the city. And outside of a city environment, we want to be looking a quarter of a mile, which the slide says 12 to 15 seconds. If you can do 20, that's even better. But we want to be looking at least 12, 15 seconds with our glances. Again, our focus is going to be somewhere in between, depending on what's going on. If it's a wide open road, our focus can be 15 seconds up the road, and that's just fine. And of course, we want to look where we want to go. This is the focus area, and we're going to drive to whatever that focus area is. If there's a hazard on the side of the road, we do not want to look at the hazard, because we will do what others have done and drive straight into the hazard, straight into a police car, straight into a parked vehicle. So we look where we want to go. We can always pick up what's going on the side of the road with our peripheral vision. Now, mirrors. I'm a broken record on this. I hope everyone watching this knows how important they are and has the mirrors adjusted properly. So, I'm not going to go through the adjustment process that's here, because the objective is to avoid the situation that we have on the left, where we have cars that get hidden in a blind spot, where we have no blind spot, or at least very minimal blind spot. This is really important on the track, to know where that car is that you just gave a pass signal, or maybe you thought there was a car back there, you didn't give them a pass signal, but now they're not in the rearview mirror. Well, are they on the side mirror? They think they're wanting a pass, even though you didn't give it to them. If you adjust your mirrors, if you've done this, you know how well this works both at the track and on the street. If you haven't done this, do it, stop the video and go do it. Second, mental vision, visualization. we can improve our mental picture of a corner. This is a particularly good technique to use if you have a corner that you're having trouble with, or that you're being inconsistent, or something just doesn't feel right. So here's the technique. Play some in-car video of that corner. Could be yours, could be somebody else's, but play that corner through several times. Then, and this is really important, turn the video off and just visualize that corner in your mind, including exactly how you want to drive it. Sit in your chair, turn your hands, turn your head, and imagine what the car is doing, how it will feel, and what you'll do to get through that corner better. Hat tip to Ross Bentley and the speed secret here. Whereas if you use all your senses, use your feet, use your hands, use your head, this will improve how you handle that particular corner. Easy thing to do, and to practice, before an event, especially again if it's a corner you're having trouble with. But it works on any corner. Now, vision and sensory input sessions are one of the sensory input sessions that Ross Bentley talks about. So here's some worksheets. The first example I have here is basically a 101 level sensory input for vision. So we want to go out and take one track session and make a mental note of everything we see on and off the track surface, with the objective to see something new each lap. Maybe how the horizon changes, you hadn't noticed that before. And notice particularly how far ahead you can see. Notice whether you're turning your head. Are you looking around the corners? And then when you come in, make notes on your track map of everything that you saw. And ideally stuff, as I said, that you hadn't seen before. So this is a really, really good way to get your vision sharp. It's especially good if you're rusty. It's especially good if the track is relatively new to you. You've only been there a time or two. You're going to learn a lot. But you're going to learn a lot even on a track you've driven 50 times. Here's a similar exercise, but now focused on situational awareness. How do are the mirrors really working the way I want them to? Do I have any blind spots? Can I tell how many cars are behind me entering turn 1 or entering turn 7? Can I judge the closing speed, using my depth perception? A way to practice that is to note what color the cars are behind. And at the same time, look at flag stations. How soon can I see each flag station? And where are my bailout corner areas? And then come in and write those observations down as well. Here's the third one. This is really more a refinement of the first one, where we want to write down our specific reference points that aren't cones. Maybe it's the end of a curb, or it's the last white stripe on a curb. Maybe it's a crack, a post, where's my specific turn in, where's my end of braking, and so on. And this is a good time to also note track surface changes, and to try to pick up one new feature every lap, something we haven't seen before. Again, come in, write those down as soon as you get in. Those worksheets are on the website. The link is right here. So you can download them, print them out, and use one or more and I guarantee it will open your eyes literally in terms of what you've missed that's been out there all along. So that there's some easy tips that you can employ. You can practice on the street. You can visualize. You can do deliberate practice at the track using these sensory input sessions. I hope you try at least a couple of these. And if you do, let me know how well it works. And then just one last caution before I wrap up. there are things that interfere with our vision because they interfere with our brain and our processing. The first one is just to get in a rut and just to drive and kind of not really be focusing on driving. And that's how a car shows up in the mirror, or we miss some oil or whatever. Pressure. If you're pushing yourself to match a lap time or for whatever other reason, then that's a problem. And you're not going to focus the way you should. Obviously, if you're tired, our brain gets tired too, and we can't be as sharp or focused as we need to be. And God forbid, distracted. And here, obviously, no one's going to be using their phone on the track, I hope, but you could be emotionally distracted if something's going on at home that's bothering you, or you just had a call from work that you weren't expecting and it's gotten in your way. Those things, if they're more than a minor nuisance, they may merit staying in the paddock and dealing with that issue before you get in the car, because that can lead to unsafe driving. So to summarize, vision is a lot more than our eyes. It means using our brain to know where and how to look, using our mental image, our focus, our glance, and our peripheral vision in the orchestrated way that we've talked about. And if we do that, we can see more, and we must see more to be safe as we go faster. There are some easy tips here, that you can practice on the street, that you can use mental imagery at home or sitting in the paddock, and some worksheets to use actually on the track. But please be mindful that these other things can get in the way. And after all, we come to the track to have fun and to be safe. If there's things that get in the way of both, then we need to deal with those first. Again, I look forward to seeing you at Lightning, and I hope everyone has a safe trip to the track and at the track. See you soon.